Deadman Wonderland, one of the anime that was brought to Adult Swim when they brought back Toonami in 2012. My family didn't have cable at the time, so I didn't discover this anime until 2 years later when it came to Netflix, and I was at my best friend's house for a night and we binge watched the entire first season. Imagine our shock when we get to the end and see no other season has been made. Now at the time I did the math and thought, it's been 2 years since this show dropped according to Netflix, so there's definitely a chance the second season is in the works and dropping real soon. But I didn't have internet at home or available to me all the time, so I never looked into it. But this anime was one I mentioned and recommended to people often throughout the years. I even went back and rewatched it a couple years later, just to see that it really never continued. Recently, this anime came to mind yet again, but this time around, I not only rewatched it, I also read the manga for the first time. And again, I am in shock because I really can't believe they discontinued the anime. Why? Well, after some quick research, I see that the animation studio behind it, Manga, went bankrupt in 2015. This, and apparently, it didn't have the greatest reviews, which is probably a big reason no other studio picked the project up. This is a tragedy, because the story is so good, and with some decisions made in the anime, I see that they truly did intend to continue with it. They set up so much. Sure, they left some things out from the manga, but not anything that couldn't be fixed with small story changes. So today, I'm going to go through the anime and the manga to show you why this anime needs a reboot. At the very least, I hope by the end of this video, you're intrigued enough to go read the manga. Because like I said, the story is so good. Alright, with that brief intro out the way, let's get into it. Let's start with something any anime needs to draw their audience in: a good protagonist. Our protagonist is Ganta Igarashi, 14-year-old middle schooler, and immediately, within the first 5 minutes of the anime, we crave justice for this boy. We meet a couple of his classmates, friends of his, friends he spends nights over with, close friends of his we feel we may see throughout the entire series. But then Ganta hears a song he's familiar with and can't quite put his finger on why he knows it. The source of this song is the Red Man, our first antagonist, floating outside of the classroom window. And once everyone realizes what's going on, this Red Man unalives everyone, with a strange power that looks like blood being whipped around. Ganta is the only survivor, and the Red Man makes sure Ganta regains consciousness before he jams a crystal into Ganta's chest, knocking him out. He wakes up in the hospital with police in his room, because he is being blamed for the massacre that just took place. Absurd, right? Then we meet his public defender, Tamaki, and this guy's design alone tells us he's not to be trusted. And he's really not. He is our second antagonist. He sets up a fake video of Ganta confessing to the crime, and Ganta is sentenced to death row. Why did he do this? We'll find out soon, but right now, we know Ganta is innocent. So seeing this, we can't help but be angry for Ganta, sad for Ganta, upset for Ganta. He's a good protagonist because he is a protagonist you can't help but root for. You want justice for him. You want to see him win. They did a great job at hooking you into the character by putting him through this traumatic, absurd situation right away. The fake video doesn't happen in the manga, but this scene in the anime adds more to a later, minor antagonist story. Ganta's sentencing is what brings us to the main setting of the anime, and any good anime needs a nice setting, an interesting world. Deadman Wonderland takes place in Deadman Wonderland, the prison that Ganta is sent to. It isn't just a prison though, it is a tourist attraction, an amusement park where the prisoners perform in numerous events for guests. Ganta's class was actually preparing for a field trip to Deadman Wonderland. Absurd, right? See, 10 years before the events of the anime, a great earthquake completely destroyed Tokyo, and a few years later, the prison was built on the ground zero of where the earthquake hit. The idea being that the funds made from the tourist attraction part of the prison will go to the rebuilding of Tokyo. Already sounds like an interesting concept, right? Well, as we watch more of the story unfold, we see this is all just a ruse to cover up the real purpose of Deadman Wonderland. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get back to Ganta. He arrives at the prison and meets our Dami-Mami of the anime, Chief Warden Makina, an important figure in the story. And we find out right away, this woman means business. She represents and embodies justice and order. Ganta also meets Yo in this scene, another important character. Yo bumps into Ganta, making him drop his prison bag. Makina accuses Yo of stealing something from the bag, and after denying, Makina slices Yo with her sword across his torso, reasserting the fact that she is not one to mess with. Ganta is in shock. He calls this absurd, and Makina responds simply, "Absurdity is reality." This is a theme thrown in our faces throughout the anime, and even more in the manga. And this theme is another reason why I think this anime needs a reboot. It does a really good job at showing the audience the ugliness of humanity, something we try to avoid or forget about in real life. After being told this by Makina, Ganta goes on a stroll to his cell, I assume. And on his way, he is contemplating everything going on. He doesn't want to accept this reality. He says, "I want to die." Then in comes Shiro, who with a friendly smile on her face says she will grant Ganta's wish, but he dodges her strike, showing Ganta that he doesn't really want to die. Shiro seems to know Ganta, literally by name, despite never having met her before, to Ganta's knowledge. This immediately piques our interest as a viewer. How does she know Ganta if she's in Deadman Wonderland? That would mean she's a prisoner, right? This is another thing I think the anime/manga did really well, introducing characters that pique our interest right away in one way or another. Makina immediately strikes us as a strong, independent female character, which we love to see done right, and she embodies this throughout the story. She's one of my favorite characters low-key. And yo, did he steal something from Ganta? What? Why? And now, Shiro's entrance. I'll point this out with characters to come, and I'll also be taking quick tangents here and there like this to get certain key points across because again, I'm trying to show you guys why Deadman Wonderland deserves a reboot. A bomb then goes off, causing a huge piece of building to fall towards Ganta and Shiro. And in this moment, the red crystal in his chest begins to glow, and Ganta shoots a ball of blood from his hand towards the collapsing debris, completely stopping it in its tracks and destroying it, saving him and Shiro. We now see he's developed this blood technique that the Red Man used, and so did the promoter of Deadman Wonderland. Who may that be? His lawyer, Tamaki. He set up Ganta because Ganta caught his interest after seeing that Ganta survived the attack from the wretched egg, aka the Red Man, who is currently being held at Deadman Wonderland. Ganta wakes up 2 days later, and this is when we learn about candy. Every 3 days, a death row inmate must eat a candy or their callers will release poison into their veins that will kill them. This is the death sentence at Deadman Wonderland. Prisoners can buy candy with cash points that they earn by doing jobs around the prison or performing in events for guests. Ganta is told by his doctor that he should have a candy in his prison bag that he received upon arriving to Deadman Wonderland. Yo is also in the infirmary for his sword wound and tells Ganta he must have dropped it when he bumped into Ganta, and he apologizes. Ganta, still oblivious to the fact that Yo stole his candy, says it's okay, and enters an event called the Dog Race because the prize is enough cash points to buy a candy. Despite odds being against him, Ganta pursues. Before the race, we meet this dude, Kosuji. He was arrested for domestic violence. Yeah, not a good guy. He basically bullies the locker room, telling them he's going to win and that's it. He's the law. He beats Yo down and forces Ganta to laugh at the situation because he says so, and Ganta complies because he feels he has no choice but to accept this reality. Before Kosuji can try to beat on Shiro though, our chief warden Makina stops him. All the while, Ganta is sitting there in his own thoughts, thinking to himself how absurd this all is. In the manga, we meet a character named Azami at this point, and she's actually involved with the locker room situation, not Yo. I think the manga did this scene better because Azami becomes important later, and in the manga Ganta stands up for Azami, rejecting the absurdity of it all. They don't even hit at Azami in the anime until the very last episode, which is another giveaway though that they intended to continue with the anime. They didn't forget about Azami, they just decided to make Yo closer to Ganta. And even though Azami is important later, there are plenty of ways the anime could have made up for this early in season 2. We'll get back to that later. The race begins, and Ganta, despite what just happened in the locker room, is determined to win. And right away, Ganta realizes that the absurdity has just begun. He sees the obstacle course start chopping prisoners up, electrocuting them, shooting them down with arrows, all while the audience applauds and enjoys it. He can't believe the madness that he is witnessing. The craziest part? Not all of the prisoners participating are on death row. They are dying when that wasn't their sentence. Shiro the entire time is saving Ganta from the death traps, and he of course doesn't realize it until the end of the race what she's been doing for him. The viewer can see she's no regular human. At the end it is Kosuji, Shiro, and Ganta. Kosuji falls to his death, and to prevent Shiro from doing the same, Ganta saves her instead of catching the prize ball, resulting in no winner. In the end, Ganta refused to play their game. He refused to accept this new reality, even if it cost him his life. He doesn't succumb to his collar though, because Yo gives Ganta the candy he stole from him, but says he just found a way to get another one. Innocent Ganta believes him of course, and they also find out they are cellmates. Yo and Ganta then go out to the courtyard. Ganta's chest starts hurting where the crystal is and they encounter the Red Man. He immediately begins destroying the courtyard and Ganta fires his blood at the Red Man, who responds with a smile. Then Ganta passes out. In the anime, all the Red Man does is smile. but in the manga, he says, "Hello, Woodpecker." Tamaki of course witnessed this event and is ecstatic because he has now confirmed our boy, Ganta Igarashi, is a dead man. A human infected with the branch of sin that allows them to manipulate their blood and use it as a weapon. This is the true purpose of Deadman Wonderland, to experiment with dead men. All dead men are on death row, so they are dead men in both a metaphorical and literal sense. Had to point out this wordplay. After this event in the courtyard, rumors spread around the prison of a hidden G block where this red man is potentially held. So Ganta, Shiro, and Yo set out to find it, and succeed because Shiro happens to know where it is. The prison seems to be like home to her. We get to G block and we meet our sensei, Senji Kiyomasa, aka the Crow. Since this is the first other dead man Ganta has seen, he mistakes Senji for the red man. Senji tells Ganta he doesn't know what he's talking about, and all he knows is Ganta is the Woodpecker and tells Ganta that they aren't the only dead men. Before things can get too exciting though, prison guards hit them with tranks and they knock out. Ganta wakes up and Tamaki finally reveals himself to our boy and tells Ganta all he's done up to this point. He then explains to Ganta that he will be competing in what's called the Carnival Corps, basically an underground deadman fight club, and if he wins enough, then he will be able to fight the Wretched Egg, aka the Red Man. Tamaki also explains that the Red Man is the origin of the branch of sin. He explains all this with a twisted smile on his face, which leads me to another thing the author did well. Wrote a villain we love to hate. Tamaki for a majority of the anime is the main antagonist. The Red Man may have been the first one to get introduced, but he's interesting because the mystery behind him. Tamaki, we just want to see brought down. He's finding so much pleasure torturing this child, and the mind games we see him play throughout the story are so messed up. He's just a terrible person. We hate this guy, but you love to hate him because you know you are going to end up seeing him fall. You want to stick around to see it. Meanwhile, Chief Warden Makina has been trying to get to the bottom of all the events occurring. She doesn't know about G Block and doesn't trust Tamaki, because who would? So she attempts to meet with the director of Deadman Wonderland, but his bodyguards don't allow her to. We then see the director laying in bed, singing the song the Red Man was singing. Is he the Red Man? Ganta's first opponent in his first Carnival Corps is of course Senji, the Woodpecker versus the Crow. During this fight, Senji teaches Ganta the basics of battle, and Ganta learns that he can't just shoot his blood because it's his blood. If he loses too much of it, he will die or pass out due to anemia. Crow creates blades from his arms that stay attached to him, so he doesn't have to worry about losing blood. In the end, Crow doesn't hold back and is going to beat Ganta. Ganta starts losing so much blood his life starts flashing before his eyes, and flashbacks begin to occur. He sees Shiro. She was once his friend when they were kids, and Shiro tells us, Ganta always gets back up. Despite the fact that he is up against an experienced combatant and has no reason to rationally believe that he has any chance to win, Ganta gets up, strategizes, and hits Crow dead center, all the while refusing the reality people are trying to throw at him. He's not a dead man, or a woodpecker, or an unaliver. His final line to Senji is, "I am Ganta Igarashi." He wins his first Carnival Corps, and without having to play their game by not killing his opponent. He still refuses to live by their absurdity, despite it being the reality in front of him. His spirits are brought down almost immediately though, when he has to witness the punishment ceremony. Crow loses his right eye. Ganta again being reminded that there is no escaping the absurdity of Deadman Wonderland. In the manga, Ganta meets other G-Block members at this point, all with dope designs, except maybe this guy. They watch the punishment ceremony with him, and they seem to be enjoying it. This was put here in the manga to reassert the absurdity even more, but these characters don't get introduced in the anime, which is one thing many people have criticized. I think though, the punishment ceremony alone reiterates the theme, and these dead men not being introduced yet in the anime is fine because in the manga, they don't do much until later in the story. They can easily be introduced later. I'll explain where when we get to that point. Ganta's second Carnival Corps is with the dead man named Minatsuki, the hummingbird. We find out she's Yo's sister, who was put there after killing their father with her branch of sin. She made it look like self-defense, but in truth, it wasn't. We see she's truly twisted. Despite seeing her true colors though, Yo tries to protect her, and Ganta realizes why Yo did in fact take his candy. It was to try to buy his sister's freedom. He just didn't know where his sister was within the prison until now. Tamaki later reveals to Yo that it's not possible to buy your way out of G-Block, so his efforts have been for nothing. And Tamaki says this with the widest grin on his face. Yeah, F this guy, man. Ganta, who sees Yo as a friend, spares the hummingbird and ends the match with a headbutt, and gives a big FU to the investors watching, saying he refuses to play by their rules. As this is happening, we get a look at what Shiro is up to. Now this is something I kind of glanced over while writing the script, and I'm sorry, but throughout the story, we have been getting hints that Shiro is the Wretched Egg, aka the Red Man. During the hummingbird fight though, Shiro is with the director, who she refers to as Grandpa, and she fights him using the Branch of Sin, and he addresses her not only as Shiro, but also as the Wretched Egg. It's now confirmed. She doesn't know she is the Wretched Egg though. She unalives her grandpa. This sets up so much for the viewer. We know Shiro is the Red Man, the one Ganta wants to get revenge on. Shiro wants to help Ganta achieve this because she is Ganta's friend and also doesn't know she is the Wretched Egg. Ganta is beginning to see Shiro as a friend and is even beginning to remember her with flashbacks. With all this, we can assume that eventually he's going to find out she is the Red Man, and that she will find out the same thing too eventually. We begin to ask, what will happen? How heartbroken will Ganta be? Will he be able to take revenge after finding the truth? Will Shiro fight back against Ganta too? So much anticipation is built because of this moment, and the way things play out is so beautiful, man. I'm getting ahead of myself again, but let's get back to Ganta. Ganta's win and rebellious gesture catches the attention of another group of deadmen in G Block, a group called Scar Chain, who are actively planning an escape from Deadman Wonderland. The leaders are Nagi the Owl and Karako the Game Fowl. At this point, I would like to take a pause from the story and get more into the Branch of Sin, and why this ability is another reason this anime needs a reboot. When I was younger watching this was the first gory, bloody anime I ever came across. And this blood manipulation ability that is the Branch of Sin is a great way to get introduced into darker anime, or bloody anime. And every user of the Branch of Sin uses it differently. Ganta fires bullets, Crow has his blades, Hummingbird uses it like whips, Nagi, we see later, creates bombs from his blood, Karako uses her blood as armor to defend and enhance her physical abilities. One of the dead men we meet in the manga can set his blood to flames. Like, there is so much you can do with this ability. I'll be honest, in the anime, the fights are a little lackluster. The manga fights are way more enjoyable to read. But with the animation we have today, I can see a studio like MAPPA doing some magic with this. I also should point out that the dead men are all nicknamed after birds. Tamaki gives them these nicknames because he calls Deadman Wonderland a bird's cage, meant to hold the Wretched Egg. The dead men all identify with their nicknames to the point they name their moves after them. Not Ganta though. The other dead men are playing along with Tamaki's game because what other choice do they have? But Ganta refuses in every way that he can. But back to the story. Our meeting with Nagi and Karako is interrupted by Genkaku, an undertaker, criminals that Tamaki rehabilitated to keep the dead men of Block G in check. And when I say criminals, I mean psychopaths, like serial unalivers and rapists. Yeah, this manga can get pretty dark. Ganta tries to fire at Genkaku, but his Branch of Sin doesn't work on him somehow. It seems to have disappeared. Shiro comes from the vent out of nowhere and saves the day once again. After this, we meet our intelligence and hacker guy of Scar Chain, Rokuro. For whatever reason, he immediately doesn't like Ganta. Ganta isn't a part of his calculations. Sus. Nagi and Karako explain the situation to him, and so he looks back at the surveillance footage, which shows Genkaku simply dodging the shot, not what Ganta saw. More sus. They take the film for fact and just take it as Ganta seeing things under pressure. Scar Chain then explains their plans to escape and get a data chip out to the public, exposing Tamaki and all of his illegal actions. A majority of the deadmen were set up by him, just like Ganta after all. The plans undergo, and it comes to a point where Nagi and Rokuro need to pull a switch. But here, we see that Rokuro is a snake, and a child undertaker, yes, a child undertaker, then slices Nagi, depleting his Branch of Sin in the process. So now Nagi realizes what Ganta saw was true. The Undertakers have weapons created by Tamaki called Worm Eaters that negate the Branch of Sin. So this shows us Tamaki has been working to build something that can stop Deadman. Before Nagi passes out, he manages to pull the switch to the elevator that Ganta and his group have been waiting for. And Nagi also attempts to send a message alerting them of Rokuro's betrayal and the fact that the data chip is a bomb. Only Shiro is around to hear it though, and this is when we first encounter Mockingbird. We don't get their name at this point though. They just tell Shiro what the message from Nagi was. She bolts to Ganta, who is getting stopped by Genkaku after leaving the elevator. Shiro interrupts this confrontation, takes the chip from Ganta, and throws it into another room as it explodes. The plans have now been spoiled, and after Ganta completely crashes out on Shiro, everyone disperses. Nobody put together that the chip was a bomb. They think she just foolishly destroyed their evidence. So Nagi has now been captured and the chip was destroyed. This didn't go according to Rokuro's plans because the bomb didn't kill everyone. So he's pissed and we capture Rokuro. Shiro goes back to her grandpa, not realizing he's dead or that she's the one who unalived him. She cries because Ganta lashed out on her, and again, Mockingbird shows up. This time they introduce themselves, but they seem to forget their own name for a second. But they introduce themselves and refer to Shiro as Wretched Egg. Who is this Mockingbird? How do they know Shiro and her hidden identity, when she doesn't seem to know them or her hidden identity herself? Another intriguing character has been introduced. Whoever they are though, Mockingbird convinces Shiro to find and punch Ganta for making her cry. Mockingbird finds Ganta first though. He's training with Crow to learn how to pass the speed of sound with his blood. Crow immediately goes on the defense upon seeing Mockingbird and tells Ganta Mockingbird is the strongest of the Deadmen. Crow notes to himself that Mockingbird is acting strange though, not like themselves. In the manga, we do not get this Mockingbird interaction this soon. It happens later, and on top of learning their name, in this moment in the manga, we also learn that their ability is to steal others' branch of sin. But for sure, the anime placed it here because they intended to give us more Mockingbird real soon in season 2. The anime also, instead of straight up revealing Mockingbird's ability, gives us hints as to what it is, which I like. Again, reboot, reboot, reboot. Our training is again interrupted by a broadcast sent from the Undertaker's discard chain. Genkaku sends them live footage of Karako and Shiro in custody and basically says they are about to do whatever they want with these two, if you know what I'm trying to say. Again, this anime can get pretty dark. But Ganta runs to where they are, despite the other Deadmen being completely accepting of what is going on. They basically are just like, what a shame. Again, here we see Ganta refusing to accept the absurdity and intends to fight against it. And he does make it to Shiro and Karako before anything really bad can actually happen to them. In the manga, this all plays out basically the same, but instead, Ganta's resilience and immediate reaction to go help his friends motivates the other Deadmen to do the same when they see him, and they all charge in after the Undertakers. We get a nice panel here, which would have been a good shot in the anime, but the anime leaving this out and having Ganta be the only one to make it to Genkaku isn't necessarily bad. It reiterates the idea that Ganta alone, to the very end, will go against the reality he refuses to accept. But to see Ganta attract others to his side, the same way someone like Luffy does, with his refusal to bow, also reiterates this. So I think both the anime and manga scenes work well here. In the manga, these extra Deadmen don't do much though, so I can see why the anime decided for them to stand by. Only Ganta, Karako, Shiro, and Nagi do much during this encounter. Speaking of Nagi, we see that Genkaku actually managed to make our boy snap. See, 2 years before this, the Undertakers killed the owl's wife in front of him after a carnival corpse between them. Not only that, she was pregnant. His child still being alive is what kept him going. He even has a locket with her picture in it. But it's revealed, the locket actually has no picture, because obviously, if she was pregnant and died, so did the child. Tamaki did this. This sadistic sly fox loathes in making Deadmen suffer in this twisted game. I'm telling you, we love to hate this guy. Nagi blocked this event out and has lived in denial about it because Nagi also went on a mass killing spree of Undertakers after it happened. A killer he doesn't want to believe exists. Absurdity he had been refusing to accept, but now has, and it's made him snap. He just blows up the entire area around him, whether it hurts his friends or the Undertakers. He's just on a rampage. Much like Bambi stuck in Shinji's Bankai, just spamming bombs. Ganta takes a beat down from him in order to protect Shiro, and she's begging Ganta to stop, saying she doesn't feel pain anyway, and that she's not going to forgive him even if he does do this. But Ganta feels bad for having lashed out on her, and he's been regaining memories and is slowly remembering she was once important to him. So he continues to take the beating, and with the combination of Ganta's Tak no Jutsu and Karako smacking the blood out of Nagi, the owl comes to. Just in time to see Karako get stabbed through the chest by Genkaku. Genkaku then goes on a killing spree, killing his own allies too. But Ganta's crystal starts to hurt again, and Shiro's personality seems to have changed at the same time in this moment. She tries to say that she can handle the situation, but he stops her, and launches an attack at Genkaku, faster than the speed of sound, to negate his Worm Eater, and the attack also appears to have been boosted in power thanks to Shiro being near. And in one final act, Nagi grabs Genkaku from behind, not allowing him to run. Ganta destroys the entire basement area they are in. Nagi dies, and the rest of Scar Chain that survived, including Karako, flee Deadman Wonderland. Ganta stays, so does Shiro, because Ganta still has friends like Yo and his sister he wants to free, and he still wants to unalive the Red Man. And that's the end of the anime. To prevent this video from being way too long, I'm going to briefly summarize the rest of the manga. If you made it this far though, I'm sure the story has piqued your interest enough, so definitely go read the manga when you can. After Scar Chain broke free, they make Deadmen known to the public, and so Tamaki has to explain to the world why Deadmen are being held at Deadman Wonderland, and what Deadmen are, etc, and etc. So he hosts a carnival corps to show the public how dangerous Deadmen are, and to convince them that Deadmen are not humans, but wild animals that deserve to be caged up the way that they are. The carnival corps is a battle royal with the Deadmen that weren't a part of Scar Chain, like Crow, Mockingbird, and the Deadmen we didn't meet in the anime, just the manga. This is another reason why I believe that them not being introduced earlier in the anime isn't vital or detrimental to the plot of the anime. They can get introduced here, because they weren't members of Scar Chain, so they didn't have a place at all in the arc. Tamaki pins them though, up against artificial Deadmen that he has now created called forgeries, weapons better than the Undertakers and their Worm Eaters. These forgeries all do the same thing, and that is inject venom into Deadmen, completely killing them from the inside out. They are also being controlled by mass. Ganta notices this when he knocks one off and sees one of the forgeries is Azami. This is who he would have met before the dog race in the manga. This is where her importance comes in finally, and this is why many watchers thought her non-appearance in the anime was detrimental. I argue though, that she could have easily got introduced at the beginning of season 2. First episode, she could have met Ganta in the cafeteria area like she did in the manga, and some sort of event to make them friends immediately could have easily been placed here. But Ganta realizes the forgeries aren't acting of their own will, so he tries to get everyone to stop. Stop the absurdity, because this is what Tamaki wants. The crystal glows once more, and Ganta destroys everything again, hurting fellow Deadmen like Crow and Hummingbird in the process. Ganta comes 2 days later, hidden from everyone. Shiro hid Ganta because all the Deadmen now consider Ganta a traitor for helping the forgeries, who for the days that Ganta has been out, have been killing Deadmen one by one. Even Crow is ready to unalive Ganta. Ganta eventually fights and saves Azami. But then these perfect forgeries arrive. Forgeries that don't need mass to be controlled, and have unique Deadman powers on top of the base venom injection all the other forgeries have. Ganta is about to face them down, and it looks like all hope is lost. But Azami leaves to try and get help from the Deadmen in Block G. Shiro is with her too, and Shiro basically tells the Deadmen to wake up and realize Ganta sees them as friends, and so do they, despite what they think. And that Ganta did what he did thinking of everyone. So obviously, they come through just in time, and we see all of them 1v1 these perfect forgeries. And all these perfect forgeries are connected to the backgrounds of these characters, and man, these fights are so good. Senji fights with this man, Akatsuki, who burned down a neighborhood Crow used to patrol when he was a cop. Senji witnesses people burn and die. We find out she's a man. We find out he burned his daughter to end her suffering. Dude, I'm telling you, the side characters don't get too much screen time or panel time dedicated to them, but when they are present, we can't help but be intrigued because the author gives us just enough to keep us there. So the forgeries get taken down, all the while we have found out that Tamaki has been trying to create a weapon to kill the Wretched Egg because the Wretched Egg is what caused the earthquake 10 years ago. But he's been doing inhumane things to accomplish this. Also, he was only mad that the earthquake destroyed his video game. Literally, that's what made him snap that fatal day, is he couldn't game anymore. He didn't even save his mom because he was mourning his game. This dude is so hateable. Also, Ganta has teamed up with Machina and her crew. I hate that I've kind of had to put her character aside for the sake of this video length, but I mean, if you got to this point, you're probably intrigued enough to go read the manga, and you'll see just how badass she is then. We also find out that Ganta's mom helped create the original branch of Sin. She worked at a medical research lab where she ran experiments on Shido since the time Shido was a baby. Shido hated being experimented on because it hurt, but she went through so much trauma that she spawned a second personality that can't feel pain, the Wretched Egg. And this personality is what utilized the nameless worm she was injected with, creating the first branch of Sin. Ganta's mom found out if Shido released her full power, she will die. The Wretched Egg hears this and thanks Ganta's mother, because she wants to die, and immediately in this moment unleashes her full power, causing the red hole, aka the earthquake 10 years ago that destroyed Tokyo. Ganta's mom's boss was a mad scientist, and he's none other than the director of Deadman Wonderland. We find out the director has been transferring his consciousness into strong Deadman so that he can fight the wretched egg at its full power, so he can play with Shido basically. He's currently in Mockingbird's body. That's why they had been acting strange according to others and forgot their own name. Now the director wants to take over Ganta's body, and as he's transferring his memories to Ganta, this is how Ganta learns of all that happened to Shido. Just before the transfer can complete though, our sensei saves Ganta and we get to watch both of them take the director down. It's an amazing fight, man. We also find out Ganta was supposed to be the original test subject, but after giving birth to him, his mother could not stomach doing that to her own child. Turns out she had a heart, so she chose Shido instead. The wretched egg found this out too, and this is why the wretched egg wants to make Ganta suffer. After beating the director and learning all these things about him and Shido's past, and after remembering from his own memories that were blocked by the trauma of the Red Hole event, Ganta decides that because he loves Shido, he must be the one to kill her. And they have an amazing battle as well. It pulls at your heartstrings really. Reading the last 10, 15 chapters of the manga really had me on the verge of tears, man. Ganta's memories all come back to him, and he realizes his reality has always been absurd. But to the very end, even as he's battling the wretched egg, he is fighting against it all. This determination to live the way he wishes to live, to make his own decisions, to decide his own fate, to not accept the absurdity in front of him. This determination in itself is absurd. The way the pieces fall and the story all comes together is just chef's kiss. And the ending, Ganta gets his justice. He gets his freedom. He saves Shido from her suffering. How does that look? It's up to you to go read the manga and find out. I'm sorry I made the ending so brief, but if I got into everything, this video would be so much longer, which wouldn't be such a bad thing if I wasn't doing everything from my phone. It just makes the entire video making process that much more tedious. But in the future, when my tools are better, these full anime manga analysis type videos will be more in depth, I promise. All in all though, I really just wanted to talk about Deadman Wonderland, especially after reading the manga for the first time. It's actually so good. I rated it a 7, maybe 8 out of 10, easy. So if you stayed this long, you're probably interested enough to go and check it out. I highly recommend it. It's really easy to find online. Some translations may be off, but when you're reading manga for free, minor mistranslations aren't the worst thing to deal with. The anime honestly doesn't hold up to today's standards, but if this thing ever got picked up today, animators can go absolutely crazy with it. Well, thank you all for clicking the video. I'm currently working on a Kaiju number 8 video, and after the 3rd episode of the 1000-Year Blood War Calamity comes out, I'll be doing a review on the first 3 episodes. I'm also working on other videos to come, but these 2 will be the next out. So if you like this video, you should sub to see when they drop. That's all for today, man. It's been your boy, Anime Man, and I got more anime to watch and manga to read. See you in the next one.
Anime Man.